John Lilburn was one of the most prominent levelers. He was born in 1615 and died at Eltham in 1657. He lived during a very revolutionary period of the English history. He was born during the Stuart dynasty, more precisely during the last years of the reign of James I. James, who became King James VI of Scotland in 1567, found a suitable queen for him in Anne of Denmark. They had 8 children, and their second son Charles became King Charles I, who would be later the monarch of the 3 kingdoms of England, Scotland, and Ireland until his execution in 1649. From 1642, Charles fought the armies of the English and Scottish parliaments in the English Civil War, which was a series of armed conflicts and political machinations between the parliamentarians and royalists in the Kingdom of England over principally the manner of its government. The monarchy was abolished and a republic called the Commonwealth of England was declared under Oliver Cromwell's personal rule. Oliver Cromwell was an English military and political leader, and later Lord Protector of the Commonwealth of England, Scotland, and Ireland. He entered the English Civil War on the side of the Roundheads. After his death from natural causes in 1658, he was buried in Westminster Abbey.
The Levelers were a group of Finnish reformers who were dedicated to leveling out social and political inequalities, mainly active from 1645 until 1649, originating many of the ideas of the just constitution, especially the Bill of the Rights. Most of its leaders were persecuted, and they were either imprisoned or executed. The Levelers' program included reform of the law, religious toleration, and free trade. The principal constitutional demands were the petition of the vote for men and women, the individual rights guaranteed by a written constitution, and an answerable government to the people rather than to the king or to the parliament. Levelers' proposals for revolutionary changes of the constitution and a legal system were spread through an effective use of the printing press. Pamphlets and petitions were circulated by a network of activists and a weekly newspaper, The Moderate, coordinated by Leveler supporters across the country. The most significant Leveler manifesto, an agreement of the people, was a potential written constitution for England. It was intended to form a contract between the electorates and the government. Their opponents were able to undermine the movement by linking them to a radical group named True Levelers, and Lilburn and his colleagues denied any association with them, and they disliked the name Leveler itself, which was going to discredit the movement.
Lilburn was the leader of the Levelers, and he was arrested for printing and distributing books and pamphlets in December 1637. After being publicly tortured, he was imprisoned until he admitted his guilt, but he didn't. His imprisonment caused an anti-government demonstration with crowds supporting him. While he was imprisoned, he wrote the first of his many pamphlets that revealed the injustices committed against him. In 1642, Lilburn enlisted for Parliament as a captain in Lord Brooke's regiment and fought at the Battle of Edgehill. Then, the Royalists tried to process him for high treason, but he was finally exchanged for a Royalist officer. After being imprisoned many times, in 1652, Lilburn was finally banished from England, on pain of death if he ever returned. He collaborated with the Royalists and assured supporting monarchy if the rights of the people were maintained. In 1653, Lilburn returned to England, claiming that his exile was null by Cromwell's dissolution of Parliament. He was arrested and, though it couldn't be proved that he was the same John Lilburn who had been banished, the government imprisoned him indefinitely. In the last of his many pamphlets, The Resurrection of John Lilburn, he declared that he had given up political activism and become a Quaker in 1657, the same year he died.
Leveler women were interested in the same thing as men, but they put also importance in some other issues. Women in the 17th century had no rights, and married women were not considered a legal person. That's why the struggle for equal rights inside and outside the family was a powerful motivating force. For many women, this fight was their first involvement in any kind of political work, and as a result, poor women were interned, whereas middle-class women were simply told to go back to women's work. The levelers were responsible for many modern-day political techniques, such as mass demonstration, collecting petition, and leafleting. The leveler women demanded the release of the leveler leaders, redress from high taxes and lack of work, dictatorial government, and opposition to meddling in Irish affairs. It is believed that in 1649, 10,000 leveler women signed a second woman's petition to Parliament written by Kathleen Chidley. The significance of this document is that, regardless of class background, the petitioner called for equal rights for all women and equality with men. Leveler women were not the only women in society that struggled against the king, but these women were lucky to have access to printing materials and presses. Some known leveler women were Elizabeth Lilburne, Kathleen Chidley, who became leader of this group, and Lady Eleanor Davies.